We've been walking through an Advent series, which normally an Advent series is 4 weeks, but the carol that we were walking through had 3 verses. And so I kind of had planned to do something a little different on this last final week of Advent. But as I kind of got closer, I thought, oh, Jake is moving away, and he's been part of this community for a long time. And obviously I'm going to miss him, but I think we're going to miss him collectively. And so we've interviewed a bunch of people in the past. And I thought, you know what? I think it'd be really good, just in case he stays in Europe the rest of his life. No, right? No. I thought it would be a good idea just to interview him. So why don't you welcome Jake as he comes over here to this side of the screen. Jake.
You're joined.
All right.
Hey, buddy.
Yo.
You good?
Yeah, I think so.
You like this?
Yeah. What's up?
What's up, buddy?
Hey.
Get a shave.
Heck yeah. Audience engagement. You see that?
Audience engagement right there.
Yeah,
Yeah, rule number 1,
Let's go.
executed.
Let's
That's
go, dude.
Beautiful.
Wrap it up. We did it. All done.
All right. So, yeah, as I said, this is, I don't know, I just feel pretty honored that I get to do this. Jake and I have amazing conversations for the most part. And this one will be live, so we'll see where it goes. It can go anywhere, really. It really can go anywhere. Am I right?
Yeah, for the most part, I'd say so.
You'd say so?
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
get crazy with it.
Get crazy with it. So just a little bit about him before we start. Jake's been at this church for a long time and served at youth for the last number of years, served in other areas as well, helped at a whole bunch of things. And yeah, he is moving away. So I will let him take it from there and then see where this conversation goes. So you have some big things coming up in 2026. Tell us about how you got to that point, education journey, and what's happening.
Yeah, I just plan on being whimsical, really, for the next little bit. No, I was just in school, wrapped up university for the last couple years. It's been like 6 years straight of university, and I'd kind of felt like it would have been kind of boring to just boring, straight up. To just go right into my full-time career and like lock in those golden handcuffs of like a pension immediately. Even though every time I'm like, I'm moving, he goes, what about your pension though? He's like, every time I'm like, I think I might, try this job. He's like, what about your pension? I'm like, my pension? My pension?
You're gonna start early.
Yeah, I know. It's really early, apparently. He's terrified for my pension right now.
I'm not terrified.
Anyway, I was like, yeah, I don't need a pension that fast. A lot of people talk about the pension, though. Even like people I'm in school with, like another 22-year-old person is like, but your pension? Like, when are you retiring? I don't understand. So I just wanted to go and explore before kind of like locking in at a school board here, because it's when you're at a board here, you kind of like, that's your career and you move up there, and I'm excited to do that, but I wanted to get a little bit of experience elsewhere and see what other classrooms are like for like one, even just my job, because I think in Canada we are pretty blessed with school and how education works, and even how the quality of students here, and I wanted to see what that would be like in England. If kids are more nice, less nice, we'll see what happens there. Whenever I tell people I'm going to go teach in England, they're like, "Oh, are you ready for that?" I'm like, "I think it'll be fine. They're still smaller than me."
It rains a lot.
I've heard it rains a lot. I showed my landlord actually. I was on FaceTime with my landlord, and I showed him out our window, and he saw the snow, and he was like, "Oh my heavens!" Freaked out with the snow. So I think the weather will be better. But yeah, so just traveling, wanted to expand perspective. Have some experiences that helps my practice as a teacher, and just explore a little bit after feeling like I was super locked into university for the last couple of years.
Wow. Okay. So you're leaving for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I'm leaving. That can't change. I'm sorry about my pension.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. I've overcome that.
Okay,
I'm fine. Jake often says that him and I are good roommates. So I'm losing a good roommate. That's basically what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's become a really good cook in the last couple of years, and sometimes he shares, which is really nice. So yeah, that's how it is. So first of all, what got you into this idea that you you want to teach or influence kids in some way? Is that an idea that you've had? You've been, done some stuff in the past with that. What kind of got you to that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think growing up in the church, you have a lot of conversations with adults and you get to know a lot of adults. And I always found those were really impactful on me, at least growing up when I didn't maybe have personally the best school experiences regarding community. Like I never really fit in with what would have been like the ways of doing things in high school, elementary school, right? Like I never really understood it, so it was always hard to make friends in that, like really tight friends in school, and a lot of my community was with adults in church or youth group, and that kind of really morphed into working with students early on, whether it was at a camp I worked for, or like here pretty early, teaching Sunday school and eventually breakfast club. But it kind of just it's always felt important to me to work with students, and even just discipleship as a concept I've felt is the burden of my heart in regards to my faith, I would say. And then teaching is this wonderful career where I get to invest in students. I get to on a daily basis just consider what will serve them best. And there's not many careers where I can think okay, what do I want to do in the gym today that'll help these kids appreciate movement more? Or what do I want to do in the science classroom that will maybe get this kid hooked on a super nerdy concept? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just, I think, actually being present in those spaces is meaningful for students and goes a long way in terms of who they're becoming.
Well, that's great. Thanks. That wasn't even on our question sheet. I just asked it randomly. Told you we'd go there. Yeah. So you have walked through some tough stuff the last 5 years. What's been hard? How has God been present? And what have you learned? So if you can give us some insight into that.
Super light question.
I know.
Yeah, obviously, we lost a family member within that time span, and that was in a transition period of me going from high school to university. And there's the direct things that are difficult with that in terms of, grief and losing a family member. And then there's the indirect things of you're kind of in a time of figuring out your identity without the kind of full sounding board that can kind of highlight, what you should focus on, or, what sounds good, maybe what doesn't sound too good in the, a song that is my lifestyle. But it was cool to, what was the rest of the question? Because that was a long question. I'm off track.
You walked through some stuff. What's been hard? How has God been present? What have you learned?
Yeah, I think presence is a funny word. I was reading that when you sent me these questions, and there was this one, going through that time of my life, I really remember very stubbornly praying and continuing to go through the motions of being a Christian and following Jesus. And I really felt I was wrestling with that whole concept of what is a present God if bad things happen, or how does a good God let bad things happen to good people? And was just in my head about that consistently. And there was this one point I was doing this personal devotion through the book of Matthew and the book of Proverbs. And I would kind of in my head, because I'm stubborn, in my head was okay, I'm going to finish this kind of devotion plan up. I'll finish working at camp this year, and then if that's that, and that's the closed book chapter of my faith, that's okay. It was a genuine thought I had going on for 2 or 3 months. And this was near the end of the summer. I was working there, and I was still, felt like I was doing good work ministry-wise with the children, but my personal faith I was deciding upon. And I was kind of getting to the end of the book of Matthew, and I had gone down to the docks that day just to finish up the book. But before I even opened the Bible, I just kind of had a personal debate with God, which just looked like me yelling at a lake. Like if you can picture that, like it just looked like me yelling into the distance at nobody. I would have looked crazy. And just being frustrated and upset. And then I was like, okay, yeah, this is probably my last time reading the Bible. So I opened up the Bible. It was a genuine thought. Like I said that to myself, I was like, this is the last time I read a Bible verse. And it was like Matthew 28, it's the last verse of Matthew 28, which, in the Jake translation, my general paraphrase of that is like, Jesus, he's kind of floating and he's down a little bit saying hi to the disciples. And he goes, remember, or don't ever forget that I'll be with you, present with you every day in every age. And that was like just after I had like spent a 2-hour screaming match with God about how he's not around. So I kind of got right hooked a little bit. He kind of punched me in the face with that. And I kind of was forced to confront the fact that no, God is present even though life sucks. And it was that stance for me, or that posture, that helped me, look back through those 5 years. It would have been 2 years from her passing, but that overall season, like a difficult season, and recognize that God was present, and I had been blessed in many ways, and I'd been taken care of. Like I didn't go away to school because my mom had passed away, and I still made wonderful friends at university. I got blessed financially from the university or from people from the camp who like sent me there as a kid. People at the village had I remember in that season of life where like you and her were in the hospital on a daily basis, I got given like what was probably like $1,000 of gas gift cards, and I could afford gas and groceries and all this crazy stuff that I just totally had to do. And looking back, it was kind of this crazy clarity in that God was very present, but like it was my posture that let me see that. Would have been what I learned. That he's always present, and even though life is trash sometimes, it is.
Yeah.
And like my posture let me kind of feel that love and live out that love afterwards. My favorite verse at that time was like Ecclesiastes 1:1. And that rough Jake translation is, everything under the sun is meaningless. And I read that like every day on a daily basis. Exam coming up, everything under the sun is meaningless.
It's good.
All the time, I read that all the time. You know what I mean? Oh, like life sucks. I have to like figure out groceries and get my sister to dance practice. Everything under the sun is meaningless. It's fine. We'll get her there. And I was just like kind of my mantra for like a good 2 or 3 years. So to then look back and find, and this is like Solomon being like depressed. So then reading the end of Matthew 28 and feeling that presence and meaning in that relationship was altering for me and changing for me.
Wow. I don't think I've ever heard you describe it that way. This is
just
how you put it all together there. Yeah.
I was talking about Ecclesiastes every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Well, I've heard pieces of it, but then you just put it all together.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing that. That's quite an Advent message, right? Like, no matter what you're walking through, no matter what your life looks like, no matter if it's hard, if it's easy, the most beautiful gift is that God is present and he's with us. Wow.
Yeah, I was honestly frustrated reading the end of that Matthew chapter. I was like, dang it, like there's so much more I have to do now. Like that's not an off the hook, revelation, right? That's a very much on the hook thing, Yeah.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that. And when Jake and I talk, there's so many things that he'll say, that he'll challenge me. My kids never let me off the hook on anything. Like if I say anything, they're just like, second question, third question, just on me all the time. And it's good, it's beautiful, and I love it, and I love the conversation. I wanted to ask you just about your connection here. Like you've been a huge help around here. So what are some of the things that you served in, some of the stuff you hated serving in, and some of the stuff you liked serving in? And tell us about it. You can go as far back as you were a kid, and you're like, why are we going to church early?
Man, I did not like setting up chairs.
Yeah.
That sucks. That sucked, man. Yeah, you're killing it. Good job. Keep that up, man. That's all you. That's all you, dude. All you. Keep that. I appreciate you. Yeah, man.
He quit. He quit doing chairs, yeah.
Yeah, dude. Chairs sucks. Shout out chairs. We need to sit. But anyway, yeah, like we started, I remember, man, the church got planted when I was like maybe 8 or 10. And it was like crazy for me because we were leaving this other church community that I felt like I was a part of, and there was a lot of kids my age and a lot of young adults whom I liked. And then we were just like, okay, suddenly like at 8 a.m., we have to be in this random school, and I have to move chairs and move tables in the library. And I honestly started to just hide in the library and read books. One time he forgot me in the library after church. That happened. That happened. I did. I was like at noon, and the janitor found me. And he was like, "What are you doing here?" But the thing I've really loved serving here, I've thoroughly enjoyed working with the students here. I've been doing that since, I want to say like probably it would have been like just before COVID is when I started helping out with it, like 2019. And then we kind of all took that like little world pause. And then we came back and started figuring out what that looked like again. And it was a challenging but really fun way to practice discipleship. Actually, out of the questions, I think this question was the one that I felt strongest about reading, because it's been such an honor to like grow up here and grow up in churches and then get to kind of facilitate a place where students can grow up. Like, working with Jordan from when he was in grade 9, like watching him do a musical, and now he's in Guelph and another musical, and you're like, that's insane. Or like even today, they were all kind of hanging out behind the table, and it was super cool to see them just chatting. Or like, I love it when I see like literally right now, Liam over at the AV table, like that stuff makes me like truly happy. Especially because, again, in those 5 years, even still, it's like a difficult thing to practice a faith through what is like a bleak life at times. Again, like everything under the sun is meaningless, personal mantra, but there's this one verse in James, it's like James 2:28, and it's like, and this is like a heavy-hitting verse, and it's, just as the body is dead without breath, so is faith dead without works. And I think the initial perception of hearing that is like, James is trying to call people fake for not doing work. But when I've read that now, after like working in the Village for years, I just think my faith wouldn't have survived if I wasn't working with the students. So working with the students, getting to have faith conversations, getting to hear about what they thought about the Bible, what they thought about Jesus, getting to tell them about Jesus, getting to hear what they're anxious about in the world, like kept my faith alive personally. Wow. Yeah, so I'd invite you, if you ever read that verse, to reconsider it, not as like a call out, but as like, this is nourishment.
Wow, yeah. I mean, when we serve and when we kind of extend ourselves, we're being stretched, we grow. That's when the rubber hits the road. I find that in the scripture when people use these verses about prayer, about like God providing or coming through, often the context is not just like, I need a new car, or I wish I had more money, or something that's like materialistic, but often it was connected to like, really want to see these people's faith grow. God, can you come through in this scenario? And I feel like that stuff is what really, really helps us grow and stretches us. And working with students is great. And it's interesting, like you walked through it and you were a student, but students are going through so much stuff, right? I always say like high school is equally amazing and equally the worst place ever, because it just depends how you're feeling and how you're connecting. And then to like try and build your faith in that season, it's a challenge, but it's also really beautiful if you can, right?
Yeah, like again, I think it was it has been the primary source of nourishment for my faith and my spirituality. I don't think I would still be a Christian if I hadn't have had a rhythm of serving in the church.
Wow.
Especially with students, especially with discipleship. I think like my biggest pet peeve lately is like going into teaching, and you just have like a random adult will be like, oh, kids suck. I just love it, bro. Adults, for some reason, everybody And everyone's a victim of it, just likes to hate on the younger generation of the person because it's like, we did X, Y, Z better. We were better at sports, random stuff. Like, oh my gosh, you could not do my math homework. It's like, they could have done your math homework, it's fine. You could not do it. And it's like every child, student, generation is dealing with like a different and nuanced thing. And it's discipling them through that, I think, is like paramount to building the kingdom.
Yeah.
I remember with the students, like the conjoined, like Brooklyn and the Village, there was one night when we were doing like Youth Alpha, and like the prevailing response to a question about anxiety was not being able to afford a house. And they were 10.
They weren't 10. They were 12.
No, there was like 10 to 12.
Oh,
They weren't 10. They were 12. It's like these 12-year-old kids are anxious about purchasing a house. And you're hating on their financial decision making or like their ability to use a calculator. It's like, no, they have a completely different set of issues to deal with, and I think discipling students through that looks different, and it's important.
Don't forget about the pension.
Yeah, to God forbid you don't even miss your pension. That's like, man, commandment number 11.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can't fall asleep thinking about my pension.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. I'll never say it again. Yeah. I appreciate your view on that, especially with students, because I do feel that. I feel like a generation of students, not all, I think we have a lot of great adults here that like love and encourage and want to build up, but like they do get looked down on a lot because they just, whatever, people think like, everyone thinks that their generation was better and whatnot, or easy or hard or whatever, but our students these days walk through a lot of difficult things, and they're being thrown at so many things, especially because of social media, especially because everything's on our phone. And we've said this a lot, and I think Jake's a testament to this. Any chance you get to just like bless a student, encourage them, listen to them, tell them that they're awesome, compliment them, and obviously encourage them in their faith, like take it. It's worth it. It's worth it if it costs you 10 minutes of your time, if it costs you some money from your pocket, it's worth every bit of it because they really need it and they will be better because of it, for sure.
And like especially our students here, like we have wonderful, wonderful students here. Like everybody who I've gotten to work with, it has been a blessing and a treasure, and I've really enjoyed it, and it's really cool to see them all grow.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this, because Jake just stepped down from doing students, so currently I was filling in and going like on Thursdays, hanging out with Michelle and our leaders from Brooklyn Village, and sometimes people say, "Oh, you're at youth too?" And I'll be like, I'm loving every second of being there. Like, it's just so fun. These guys are the best. They're hilarious. And these girls, they're just wonderful. And so I'm kind of like, oh man, this is what Jake was doing. This is good. I really love this. So, wow, thanks for sharing all that. So I have then 2 more questions for you. One is this: if you could tell our church community anything, what would it be? But you can't be dragons.
There's this whole bit, like
You can't talk about dragons, but I mean, you might.
Way back when, I like really went on, like I'm such a nerd, and in the Bible, there's like a bunch of like reoccurring moments where they talk about dragons a little bit, and I was like, Dad, wouldn't it be so cool if you let me spend like a half an hour like breaking down the thematic point of dragons in the Bible? And he never let me do it. Can you believe that? Like 2 years of asking to like sermon on dragons, it never happened.
Right.
And guys, it would have been a really good sermon. I just want you to know you really missed out on a dragon sermon. That's all. They're in there. They're in the Bible, and they're cool. So how much do we have? 30 minutes?
No, we don't.
Fine. I won't
Not
talk about
today.
dragons.
Not today. Yeah.
They're really
We'll
cool.
record
Really
you
cool.
from
Yeah,
the
I'll send you a video
Send this in. Yeah, we'll post
about
it.
dragons in the Bible. They're cool. Anyhow, I think like what at least came to my heart upon reading that question was just that continued call of like go and make disciples. It'll kind of bleed into the next question, but I think growing up in church, really appreciated being discipled, and it's like if there's anything I've longed for as like a young man growing up in faith is like being discipled, because students don't have all the answers, and it's tough to be a student. You're constantly bombarded with what you should be doing. And it's rare that kids nowadays get an adult who's not their parent, who isn't stressed about their pension, to give them advice, or to just get a meal with them, or like some paramount character building things in my life had been like, if you guys remember Marquis, like Marquis and I would get sushi like once a month for a little bit before him and Talita moved out, and that was like one of the barriers preventing me from probably like spiraling out of Christianity. So I think, yeah, go and make disciples.
Yeah. Wow. All right, so here's the last question. Why Jesus, and why do you still follow Jesus? Why did you, and why do you still?
Reading this question, like when I got it sent to me, is funny because I'm super like science academic minded when it comes to stuff like that. So the first thing I wanted to do was be like, well, logically, what do I say? You know, like how do I definitively prove in a 5-minute question to why you should follow Jesus? But I'm not going to do that because I can't. What I will talk about is why I follow Jesus personally. And the theme of like, you know, a difficult 5 years or difficult life. I personally, at my core, feel as though I am a weak, grumpy, fearful man living in like a very broken and unjust world where people are hurt, bad things happen, I feel powerless to do anything about it, and at times feel like I like turn on my neighbor. And then you have like Jesus enter the scene and be radically loving, radically inclusive, radically generous, radically courageous, and, you know, ask us to join him on this lifestyle that creates a world that is whole and fair and just like flips what we are all used to living in on its head. And like that is, I think, continually why I say yes to Jesus, because the world doesn't make sense to me, and like the way I am in the flesh doesn't feel correct. And I feel as though when I live with Jesus and I lean into Jesus and I, you know, accept the fact that he's present despite my dog screaming matches, leads me to a peaceful stream. But there's actually, can you actually pass me my Bible, Jordan? Under there? Yeah. Appreciate you. We did with the youth, like way back when, like one of our longest Breakfast Club series was like on the Sermon on the Mount. And like I said, I feel as though the world is broken and unfair, and I feel as though I am weak, afraid, and a grouch, personally. Like there's like a small Italian man in my soul who just like hates everybody. Personally, like, I don't know about you guys, but I got like a small Italian alter ego that just like hates everything all the time. Anyhow, and we with the youth did a series on the Beatitudes, and I'm just going to read them really quickly because I feel like everything that choosing Jesus stands for is like very concisely represented in the Beatitudes, which is, God blesses those who are poor and realizes their need for him, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses those who mourn, for they will be comforted. I needed to hear that verse often. God blesses those who are humble, for they will inherit the whole earth. God blesses those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied. God blesses those who are merciful, for they will be shown mercy. God blesses those whose hearts are pure, for they will see God. God blesses those who work for peace, for they will be called the children of God. And God blesses those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. And I just feel reading that and trying to chase after, pursue, make room for Jesus, like that is everything I hope for. And I feel is created in the spaces that we are when we choose Jesus. That like upside down kingdom.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. I didn't know you were ending with that. That's beautiful. I had some thoughts to close, but I don't need to say them anymore because I think you did it. You said it really well. So, wow, thank you. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being you. Thanks for being honest. Thanks for screaming into the lake
Great at
and
that.
telling us about it, because I think it's important that we know that. Thanks for, following Jesus along with us all these years and being a good example to us and to me, too, as your dad. Yeah. So, would you like to close us in prayer?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, because Jake will probably be here on the 4th on our last Sunday, so we'll send him off with the prayer that day. But I think it'd be great if you close in prayer. So go for it.
Lord, thank you for creating places where we can experience wholeness and healing and justice. I pray that as we lean into our relationship with you, we can do the work that creates pockets of faith and hope in the world. As we enter the Christmas season, remind us of our blessings and keep us. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Give him a big hand, guys. All right. Peace, love, recycle. We'll see you Tuesday night. Grab a card. Invite a bunch of friends on Tuesday. Please invite a bunch of friends via social media or whatever. We want to fill that place up. And have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. And Jake, I love you lots.